Morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Los Alamos. My name is Elisa Enriquez. I'm a worship associate for this church. Today we have our guest minister here from the First Universalist Church of Auburn, Maine, Patrick McLaughlin. He'll be providing us with a sermon. We welcome all of you, whether you're here or watching online. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person and the interconnection of us all. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are at this moment, and wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. If you're joining for the first time, we invite you to talk to any one of us, including revjohn, who is here today, and he'll be available after the service. At the same time, we will have a committee fair immediately following the service. You'll hear more about that in the announcements. If you're watching online, please do sign the virtual guest book, and everyone is invited to the fellowship hall after the service. Again, welcome. We're glad you're here with us today. Into this home, we bring our hunger for awakening. We bring compassionate hearts and a will toward justice. Into this home, we bring the courage to walk on after hard losses. Into this home, we bring our joy and gratitude for ordinary blessings. By our gathering, we bless this place. In its shelter, we know ourselves blessed. Let us open our minds and our hearts to one another as we gather ourselves for worship on this beautiful morning. Please join in singing our hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Please stay standing as we recite our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve life and fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony, thus to be covenant with each and with all.
You may be seated.
A candle of community has been lit today in memory of my grandfather, Rogelio Felipe, who would have been 101 today. Let's share a moment of silence as we reflect on our joys and sorrows, whether spoken aloud or held quietly within.
Spirit of life and love, our world is full of problems and crises. The world. It sometimes the world is angry, fighting, killing, on fire. May we remember to resist evil and not to be quietly complicit with it. May we not forget each other, holding out our hands to help and to support, and to be helped and to be supported. We are better and stronger together, and all of us need help. May we learn to accept help gracefully. May we not look away and pretend and ignore what is horrible and unacceptable. Remind us that what we do matters, no matter how small it may seem. May we remain deeply rooted in our ethics, our values, saying no when others ask or insist that we compromise them. Remind us to speak the truth. Remind us that our words and voices matter. Remind us to work together, to calm the fury, to stop the killing, to put out the fires. Spirit of life and love, teach us to be courageous, to be bold, to take the risks that must be taken. Help us find our way as we work to build the beloved community. Amen, and blessed be.
Here's an excerpt from Carl Sagan's The Demon-Haunted World. If we can't think for ourselves, if we're unwilling to question authority, then we're just putty in the hands of those in power. But if the citizens are educated and form their own opinions, then those in power work for us. In every country, we should be teaching our children the scientific method and the reasons for a Bill of Rights. With it comes a certain decency, humility, and community spirit. In the demon-haunted world that we inhabit by virtue of being human, this may be all that stands between us and the enveloping darkness. For the meditation hymn, we are going to have the women's trio sing a verse, and they invite you to join in, number 1058.
I have a time for all ages, and so I would like to invite the children to come here onto the rug if you would like to. And the childlike and the childish, you can stay in your seats. So the story I have for you today is called Higgins, a Drop of Water. How important is water here? Pretty important. Once upon a time, there was a single drop of water, named Higgins. Now, Higgins was just like every other drop of water, but Higgins was no ordinary drop of water. He was a drop with a dream. Higgins lived in a valley where it had not rained in a very, very long time. And all of the lovely green grass was turning brown, and the beautiful flowers had started to wilt. And the trees were starting to droop. But Higgins had a dream that one day the valley could be a beautiful place again. But what could he do? He was, after all, just a single drop of water. One day, Higgins decided to travel, to tell others about his dream. And other drops listened, politely, but no one believed that his dream could come true. Higgins, one of them, said, "Get your head out of the clouds. You can't spend your whole life dreaming." Higgins decided that he needed to do something if he was going to make this dream come true. Do you guys have dreams that you want to have come true? Most of us do. So he stopped and sat and thought, and thought and thought. And one day, as he happened to be walking by a rusty bucket, an idea came to him. If enough of us drops get together in this bucket, he thought, there would be enough water to sprinkle on a few flowers and make them grow and be beautiful again. And so, very excited and eagerly, he told his friends this idea, but everyone thought that he was being foolish again. Higgins, you're nothing but a dreamer, they said. But he decided that he had to do something to convince people, convince other drops, that he was right. So he said to them, I don't know about you, but I'm getting in the bucket. And I hope some of you will join me. There might be enough water to help at least some of the flowers grow beautiful again. So he ran as hard as he could and hopped way up into the air and landed with a kerplunk into the bottom of the bucket. And there he sat, just a single drop in the bucket. And for a long time, he was alone. And he was lonely in the bucket. It seemed like no one was going to come join him. But after a while, some of the other drops could see that the grass was dying, and the flowers were wilting and dying, and the trees were drooping. And they agreed that something needed to be done. And after a while, one of the other drops shouted out, I'm going to the bucket with Higgins. And he, too, leapt into the air and kerplunk into the bucket. And then two other drops yelled, wait for us. And they hopped into the air and landed in the bucket. And then 10 drops joined them, jumping through the air into the bucket, and then 50 drops. And then hundreds of drops came from all over just to jump in the bucket, just to hop on in and be with the rest. And pretty soon, the bucket was full of water. But there were still more drops that wanted to join, though, so they found another bucket, and they hopped into that bucket. And before long, they had 2 full buckets of water, and then 3, and then 4, and then 10, and then hundreds of buckets of water, and then thousands of buckets of water. I have no idea where the drops were finding buckets. Maybe at a Target. Or an old farm. It was a rusty bucket they started with. It's a good question. You should ask more good questions. We like good questions. And pretty soon along came a powerful breeze, probably like the one we had last night. And it blew over all the buckets, and the water flowed together, and it made a stream. It made a mighty stream. And wherever the water flowed, the grass turned green again, and the flowers bloomed, and the trees perked up and stood straight once again. And all of this happened. Why did this happen? It happened because Higgins had a dream, right? And he made his dream come true because he knew that though he was just a single drop, just a drop in the bucket, enough drops in the bucket make a bucket full. And when there are enough buckets with the wind behind them, justice can flow down like the waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Now, I don't know if you have religious education classes today, and if you do, someone's going to probably ask you to go to them. But if not, you're welcome to stay and listen, and I don't care if you make noise.
lift yourself up. Lift up someone else. Booker T. Washington.
Find the sweetness in your own heart, then you may find the sweetness in every heart. Rumi.
I will not allow my life's light to be determined by the darkness around me. Sojourner Truth.
Nothing is hopeless. That is right, Susan B. Anthony.
A smile or a tear has not nationality. Joy and sorrow speak alike to all nations. Frederick Douglass.
Lift up your soul, bring peace to the violence. Lift up your mind and open your eyes. Lift up your voice for those who fall silent. Lift up your heart and freedom will rise. Koimani belele, naeleluya. Koimani belele, naeleluya. Komaneno nguvu na umoja. Komaneno nguvu na umoja. Lift up your soul, bring peace to violence. Lift up your soul, bring peace to violence. Lift up your voice for those in silence. Lift up your voice for those who fall silent. Lift up your heart and freeze the violence. Lift up your soul, bring peace to the violence. Lift up your mind and those in your heart. Lift up your voice for those who fall silent. Lift up your heart and freedom will rise. Lift up your heart and freedom will rise.
Track of 20 years ago, flying home from Canada, my wife and I were directed by the TSA, the U.S. Transportation Security Administration, into a large waiting room. We figured it was no big deal, though it seemed rather odd, and we didn't ask why. So we stood there in a large, overfull room with a few chairs, and we waited. We noticed that most of the people in the room were brown-skinned. Every so often, an agent would call a name, and someone would go into one of the little glass-walled rooms and be talked to. And then they'd come back to the waiting room. No one ever seemed to get to actually leave. People were called and sent back, and then called again. I watched a young man close to us leaning against the wall. He responded when they called out his name, Mohammed Khan. Mr. Khan was sent back to the waiting room after a few minutes and then called back in and sent back out. The third time this happened, he slid down the wall to sit on the floor, and I heard him mutter, "They are just playing with me." Eventually, an agent walked through after maybe to us, and I asked what was going on, why we were there. The very real white privilege of feeling safe to ask that of authority in uniform and on foreign soil. The agent, without even asking who we were, replied, "Oh, we know you're okay. It's just that your part of the database is down," and walked away, leaving me rather puzzled. He didn't know who we were. He hadn't asked my name. I hadn't introduced myself. Or maybe he did somehow know who we were. And the idea that there was some singular database that one section of could be down, leaving everyone around the world whose last name started with M in limbo, that was absurd. That was nonsense. Soon we were set free and told to hurry, go that way, to catch our plane. And indeed, we did hurry, and we did catch our plane, and the flight attendant literally closed the door right behind us. The TSA had known exactly how long they could hold us. They knew who we were. A friend has since helped me to understand exactly what happened. TSA was racially profiling people, illegally, but by sweeping us up and holding us, they muddied their data with white middle-aged people. We were used to cover their tracks. We complied with authority without question. We went along, but I cannot help but wonder what would have happened if we'd been noisier up front after we entered the room, demanding an explanation. You know, real full-blown white privilege. Or perhaps more powerfully and usefully, if we had refused to leave when they cut us free. If we had demanded an explanation for why they detained us, that they show us the reasons, which they could not have done, and then refused to go until they freed all those other people who'd been there even before we arrived, people like Mr. Khan. No one is free until everyone is free. We protect our rights by protecting everyone's. I didn't look out for Mr. Khan that day. I still regret it. I failed Mohammed Khan. I think I failed all of us. Now, almost all of us do this kind of thing in such situations. We are taught to comply with the instructions of authority. So what has all of this got to do with democracy and spiritual practice? Our congregations promise each other that we will affirm and promote the use of the democratic process in our congregations and in society at large. We have been radically democratic since our Puritan religious ancestors first established congregations in New England. It is a fundamental piece of our history. It is how we are organized, both congregationally and as an association, and we, in fact, assert that democracy is a religious principle. And Winston Churchill famously observed that democracy is the worst form of government ever devised except for all the others. Like every other institution created by human beings, it is imperfect. It can disappoint us, sometimes profoundly. And it is operated by human beings, flawed beings, all of us, who can be biased and ignorant and even corrupt. But it seems to be the best that we have. So why are we so committed to it if it's imperfect and it often dissatisfies us? And the answer is simple. Governance is necessary. History is littered with utopian dreams and failed anarchist and libertarian fantasies that imagine a society without governance would be wonderful. And experience says that governance is required. Top-down models with a monarch or some tiny aristocracy all seem to result in the abuse and the misery of most people, the vast majority. But like all other human institutions, democracy is prone to abuse and to decay because the people, we the people, become lazy, we become complacent, we get distracted, or we are made so very desperate by the actions of the wealthy and the corrupt that we are willing to listen to and accept the ridiculous statements and promises from would-be strongmen, from authority. We want the illusion of safety that authority and authoritarians promise us, and it is always a lie. The illusion comes at a terrible price. We have known since ancient times that when democracies fail, they fail into becoming tyrannies, which the Greeks defined as the worst form of government. In modern times, we have seen that this has been regularly entangled with monopolistic corporate capitalism into various forms of fascism. And this should come to us as no surprise. We have wealthy, powerful people and corporations angling to bend the state to favor them into even more unfairly and unjustly advantaging them. And these people, they move into the orbit of political figures who are willing to make a deal. Support us, and you will profit handsomely. Corrupt capitalism is thus both an accelerant and a co-conspirator in this process. Look around the world and you will see democracies struggling all over against political and economic corruption and decay. Democracy, which 50 or 60 years ago was expanding all over the globe, is now threatened, embattled, and in decline. Less than half of all Americans actually currently say they support democracy. A smaller number then don't think much of it. This is a fact, and it's a fact that led Professor Timothy Snyder to write on tyranny. If you don't already have a copy, I urge you to find one and to read it. It is short, it is small, it is an easy read. There's a lot of white space on those pages. Each chapter, there are 20, is a specific lesson in how to resist the decay of democracy, how to fight against its corruption, how to help heal it, how to help build it up. Each chapter title summarizes the whole chapter. Here's the thing you need to do. So it could be used by us as a kind of a devotional, a book of things to think about, and of practices to undertake as, for us, spiritual practices, spiritual commitments. You could use it as individuals, or you could gather in groups, even better, focusing on one chapter, one idea, one commitment each week. I'm not going to give you the whole book. His first chapter's message is simply this: do not obey in advance. Do not obey in advance. Anti-democratic forces will try to intimidate you, try to intimidate the people, try to get you to comply simply to see what you will comply with, what we will give up even before the state tries to demand it. Do not comply in advance. Do not obey until you are forced to. Resistance, Snyder says, shows where the line is. It tells the government, no, not this, no further. His last chapter is a single page. The title, Be as Courageous as You Can. And the entire text of the chapter is just this: if none of us is prepared to die for freedom, then all of us will die under tyranny. Now that sounds like something from the American Revolution, but the war in Ukraine reminds us just how very real and current this message is. To survive, democracies, both our national one and our congregational ones, need engaged citizens who will accept their responsibilities and do their work as members, as citizens of that democracy. Because in a democracy, you're the owners of it. You're the sovereign. The sovereign needs to do the work. It is when we cede that power and fail to do the work that democracy dies. Our religious commitments insist that every person has worth and is entitled to dignity, always. We recognize that we are, all of us, inextricably connected to one another, interwoven and interdependent parts of the web of all things, and that what affects any one of us affects all of us. So none of us are free until all are free, and we are committed to the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. So these things, they inescapably seem to me to lead us to some kind of a democratic system, because no other system supports the equitable treatment of every person as being equally worthy, deserving of a voice in how their society works, living in a free and just, peaceful world. Now, this is not to suggest, because I would never suggest, that any current democracy is perfect, or that even that democracy could become perfect. It is simply the best that we have now, and that it offers the best possibility we can see for moving towards those goals. We are committed to democracy because it is the best way that we know other values. There is the democratic idea that all men are endowed by their Creator with certain natural rights, that these rights are alienable only by the possessor thereof, that they are equal in men, that government is to organize these natural, unalienable, and equal rights into institutions designed for the good of the governed. And therefore, the government is to be of all the people, by all the people, and for all the people. Here, government is development, not exploitation. That was before the Civil War. That was before the nation ended legal slavery and extended civil rights to women, which was something that Parker supported, even though his language, which I've just quoted, didn't capture that. You may have noticed Lincoln borrowed that formulation for the Gettysburg Address. But in his editing it, he took out all. Now, maybe that was for brevity, a rhetorical stroke. But maybe it was for politics. Parker stressed all the people, making it clear that no one could be left out of this vision. Democracy, he insisted, exists not to support exploitation, but to ensure human development for the good of the governed. Parker's all says that real democracy had not been achieved in America and would not be until social and political inequalities were all overcome. We are committed to democracy because it serves those ends, to protect the equal, unalienable rights of every person, to encourage human betterment. These are our values. We are committed to overcoming all social and political inequalities, right? Because that's what the beloved community is, a democracy that cares for all and includes everyone. Practicing democracy isn't just a good thing, it is for us a spiritual practice, a communal spiritual practice as well. Democracy, like love, is an active verb. It does not exist in the abstract. It means nothing to simply say, I support democracy. Democracy is something that is done, lived out. It is how we do it. It is a practice. You cannot practice something by sitting on the sidelines. We sing together because it is wonderful and meaningful and it moves us. And some of us are good at it. But they only get good at it by practicing. And choirs, people singing together, they only get good at it by practicing together. It is in committed and studious practice that we get good at things. So as good UUs, we must be committed to actively practicing democracy. We owe this to ourselves and to others because it is the single most effective tool we have for supporting and achieving our other religious goals, our commitments, the worth and dignity of every person, the opportunity to grow, to thrive, to evolve. And only through democracy will we see movement towards a world society that offers peace, liberty, and justice to all people. It is spiritual practice to spin and weave the threads of democracy. Like all practice, this demands regular, ongoing work. Doing a little of this work, maybe daily, that devotional practice I mentioned, or maybe writing letters to the editor, perhaps both, or to officials. The point of spiritual practice is to become better, improved versions of ourselves, individually and together. Through practice, we get better at it. And maybe we learn not to abandon each other in TSA waiting rooms. doing democracy better, making it stronger, healthier, more caring, is thus an active and ongoing spiritual practice. It is, however, always a messy one. It means going beyond voting. Not that voting is not required. This is how we choose to staff our democracy's leadership. It matters that you vote, but voting is not democracy. Democracy is governance. It is the people ruling. It is necessary for us to then question that authority, to speak to it, to speak back to it. It is necessary for us to educate ourselves, to form our own opinions, what Carl Sagan prescribes for pushing back the shadows of the demon-haunted world. It means finding ways to select candidates and causes that support our values. Or it sometimes means, means becoming those candidates. It means staying in touch after those elections, reminding our elected leaders, whether they're the ones we voted for or not, what we expect of them, what we demand of them. It is our job, our ongoing job, to help make democracy work by insisting that its leaders, our leaders, do the job of governing our congregations, our association, our state, our nation, and to do those things in manners that are in accordance with our values. Their job is to govern for the good of all. Doing this work, speaking to our leaders, working for democracy is the work of building the beloved community. And that work, my friends, is ours, and it cannot be given away. It is work. It will be messy, it will be frustrating, and continued practice will be satisfying when, as our choirs and musicians can attest, all that work achieves harmony. And the glory and the joy of that harmony in our society will be ours as well. May it be so, and amen.
Our offering is an opportunity to share some of what we have with the wider world. Our Share the Plate partner for this month is our partner church in Fenyokut, and 100% of all offered this month will be given to the partner church. We invite you to place what you can and give with joy in the offering plate. If you'd like, you can also give through the Givelify app. May the offertory music lift your spirits, and may what you give bring you joy.
We will take one more step.
All right, we have a lot of announcements, so I'm going to just highlight what's happening today. And you can look in the back of the order of service if you'd like to see what else is coming up. But today you're invited by the membership committee to update your photo. And there's actually going to be the ability to take a photo in the fellowship hall along with our committee fair. So we also invite you to take a look around, talk to different committee chairs, and find out where you'd like to serve. And if you are not interested in taking a photo today, the membership committee also asks that you can send a picture of yourself, your family, what you like to the office. Again, Women's Circle will be happening tonight at 7. And the coming of age for adults begins on February 8th. And so that if you are interested in coming of age, then Tina Duyo, who's not here, but she's the director of Lifespan Religious Education, you can reach out to her and register. All right, lots of announcements. All right, please join in singing our closing hymn, number 1028, Fire of Commitment.
Is an imperfect world, and we make do, and we do it together. Perhaps you feel just like a drop in the bucket, a drop in the desert. But together, enough drops will make a mighty monsoon and can fill the river full of justice, even overtopping dams built to block righteousness. Remember, you are powerful. Even if you are a single voice like Higgins, calling people to do what is right. Call out, even if your voice trembles, and together, my friends, you are mighty. Do what love and justice call us to do. Make that your democratic practice together. Being the first drop requires courage. Be that drop. Go in peace and love as bearers of that promise that love is always large enough to hold us all.